tax that's based specifically on an assessment of a well. I guess we'll go ahead. For the ad valorem tax, you look at it like it's a house. The house is taxed, and the local property owner of the house ends up paying those property taxes, and we all know how high those are in New York State. And the same is true for the gas companies when it comes to well production. And the well is assessed separately, and that tax money goes directly to the township. When the antis often refer to the fact that there is not a state tax on gas production, that in fact is true, because the money that is generated from the assessment of the well does not go to the state, it stays in the local community, which is a great thing for our local community, and especially at a time when our schools are in such dire needs and our local areas are in dire needs. So as we move through, the economic unit, the rights to all of the unextracted gas, all of the equipment and fixtures, the pipelines, the compressor stations, and the equipment storage buildings all are part of the assessed production rate, or unit of production. This assessment is done through using the Office of Real Property Taxes, and that's responsible for the taking the information, and they take the data and analysis from a well. When we look at the production, the value is calculated for the new tax year, and that tax year, if we go to the next slide, there we go. That is calculated by this method. The sale price of the natural gas, and then you delete or you subtract the amount for the standard royalty or the overriding royalty, and then you subtract the operating expenses, reserves, depreciation for a dry hole, and the depreciation, and that equals the operating gross income, and that equals the net cash flow divided by the discount rates, and that discount rate is always 0.175, and that equals your production value. When the ORPS looks at this, they figure this out for us, and by doing that, they go back 6 years. So there's been a lot of talk today about the gas prices that have gone down to $2.80. We look at this because if they don't want to diminish the amount of the gas overnight so that a community would be left hanging, so to speak. So they go back 6 years and they come forward 5. That's on the next slide. So here we've gone to figure out for 2012, they go back to 2006, they take those prices and they come up 5 years. And they take those amounts, they add them together and they divide them by 5. And that equals your unit of production rate for 2012. When we figure this out, they also take the value, and this is very important because we don't want people to think that they're not taking into account the fact that the gas well the production rate is going to diminish through time. This is the number that's used directly from the CGIS by the DEC and by New York State. For the first year, that rate is 803,000, or 803 million actually, but for 803,000 for the next slide. The second year is 354, and the third year is 258. We'll remember those numbers for a second. We'll go to the next slide. They take that unit of production, which was our 980, they multiply that by the production, the 803, and then they have the equalization rates. Each town in New York has its own equalization rate. This is all the information that comes directly from the town of Oneonta. So in Oneonta, if well was drilled, its value if it's drilled into the Marcellus Shale, and that's another bit of information. There's the Utica that we're very interested in New York, in this area, and also the Marcellus. They figure out this rate based on the strata that they're drilling into. So this rate is based on what is being produced presently in Pennsylvania. So New York State ORPS uses the information based on figures from Pennsylvania because there's existing information and we don't have that presently in New York. So at an equalization rate of 70%, the assessment of a single well in New York is $5,508,580. If that was our house, we'd be paying a lot of property tax. But that's the well, and that's what the drillers will be assessed at. When we have that assessing of the well, that's for only one well. When we look at this, somebody earlier had spoken about the producing and development of a well pad. In New York, we have 3 years, the gas companies will have 3 years to develop that well pad. So generally, they will develop 2 wells the first year, 2 wells the second year, and 2 wells the third year. At the rates, at 803, that production that we saw in the slide where the production rate is decreasing, the gas rate is depreciating. The 803 is used to produce the number $645,549. That's the money on 2 wells on a single pad for the development of a single square mile in Oneonta would be. That $645,549 would be paid directly to the town of Oneonta. That's one well pad, that's 2 acres when you're all said and done, when the well pad has been reclaimed. The second year, they would add 2 more wells under column that says 4, so there's now 4 wells on that single well pad. The 2 wells that were drilled the year before at 803 are now assessed using the 354 number. The 2 new wells are assessed using the 803,000 number. So that's a combination, and then the production of this well, the tax that is paid directly to your township for this 2-acre piece is up to $930,137 directly to your local township. Of that, your school taxes alone are over $400,000 directly to your local school. Not to somebody else's school down the road, not to Long Island. That money stays here. When you look at the third year, you have 2 wells that are new, that are at the 803,000, 2 that are at the 354, and 2 that are now down to the third year that are at 258. When you calculate that out for the production of that same 1 acre or 1 square mile, development reclaimed 2-acre well pad, you are over $1 million. You're at $1,126,967. These are impressive numbers, and I have to tell you, last week I got a wow out of Senator Seward, because I did this and I showed him that doing this in the township of Worcester, where his daughter is a first-grade teacher, that 14 wells developed in the town of Worcester would completely eliminate the entire tax levy for the town. That means that you don't pay school taxes anymore. You don't have those property taxes coming up for you where you're paying for your library and your highway. Those things are all covered. We really need to make sure that we understand this, because our legislators are not aware of this, as I found out with Senator Seward. This is a huge issue. These numbers are staggering. This is 2 acres. This is the development of 1 square mile out of 30,000 acres or whatever it is in Oneonta. I know Worcester is about 30,000 acres. So looking at this, we'll go to the next. This represents, in addition to the millions of dollars in ad valorem tax that it adds thousands of jobs to New York, millions of dollars in lease money that goes for bonuses to the landowners. That money is then tax because it's an income tax, unfortunately for us, but we're willing to pay our share. The millions of dollars in royalties that the landowners again will receive, and the millions of dollars paid in taxes to the county and New York State. Millions of dollars in state income tax, millions of dollars donated to local charities. I know that our landowners groups are continuously trying to figure out how they can help each other out and how they can help the community out. So this is money, when you have money to spend, landowners are willing to spend it. We put it back into our communities. There's decades of prosperity for the residents of the southern tier and the entire state to come. And that's pretty much my presentation. Are there any questions?
Your model, when you're looking out 2 and 3 years into the future, do the rolling average numbers for years 4 and 5 come down to what's market rate right now?
Actually, the numbers that are right there are the current rates. That 803.
Well, we all know that like $9.80 or whatever that 5-year average is inordinately high compared to the market.
Well,
So
right.
it'll come down.
Well, what that is, when you look at the production rate, that money, or that is figured, it goes back 6 years, so that's how they figure that out. So even if next year, if the gas price were to go down to 0, there would only be a 20% difference, because you're dividing it out by that 5.
It'll go down.
I'll let Brian take this.
What you're going to see is, with the rolling 5-year average, 1 or 2 years of low gas prices aren't going to have a significant impact. The other thing you got to look at in that formula is that the denominator is part and parcel of the federal interest rate, which, as we all know, right now is very, very low. So you're taking a very small number and dividing into a medium-sized number or a big number, and that's what's elevating the value up to 980 right now, is that the Fed rate is so small. And as long as the Fed rate stays small, even the price of gas drops down to what it is right now, you're still going to see a relatively good number for your unit of production value. Now, of course, if we continue to have low prices over 5 years or whatever, or they continue to come down, yes, you're going to see that 980 come down, but it's not going to be a drastic drop.
In other words, you're trying to figure it like a battle.
This has been set up so that a town 1 year won't have this huge influx of tax dollars, and then the next year be wondering where they're going to get something from, and then the taxpayers have to make up the difference. They're trying to average it out to make it a little smoother.
The new rates due tomorrow, April 1st.
I see some of that was going to the, apparently the town and townships and so forth. Are the gas companies still going to be responsible for maintaining the roads, the damage to the highways and so forth?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah.
I don't need that. Do I need that?
No.
I don't need that. I need to put things. Listen, I've been to the presentations from the other side, and this year is really threatening to them. And what they're telling people is that roads are going to be destroyed, and that everything you get to your town from this ad valorem tax, you can be sucked up by mitigating road damage and water damage. I'd like to tell you a couple of things about water damage. Where has there been any water damage from hydrofracture? There hasn't been. There's been problems with methane migration, but nothing that's going to cost $1 million to mitigate as far as I'm concerned. And I'm no expert, so you don't have to take my word. The roads that they're talking about repairing coming out of the ad valorem side of the taxes, that's not going to happen either. Look what's happening in Bradford County is going to happen here. When these gas companies come in, they spent $300 million in Pennsylvania fixing the roads. I think it's the DOT or
The DOT.
The DOT in Pennsylvania had budget of what, $1 million or $50,000 alone in Bradford County?
Doesn't matter.
They could not match what the gas companies did, and the roads are better. I don't know if you people up here, you're far away from Pennsylvania, but I go there quite a bit. And I used to work on a farm when I was growing up in Brookdale, Pennsylvania. And I used to ride on the back of a pickup truck,
they had the 100-pound tanks that many people use for mailboxes today. They would be full of milk, we take them to a creamery that's long been shut down in Montrose, Pennsylvania. And I'm telling you, that was the worst ride, more injuries happened in the back of that pickup truck traveling them roads than what would happen today. The roads are a lot better. They're fixing 29, they're fixing all the roads that I've ever been on are much better than what they were 20 years ago. I just wanted to say that. They're coming up with their answer to what we have. But this is a killer to them. This is a game changer for a lot of towns. And if you go by their numbers, 20,000 walls are going to be drilled in Broome County next month. You know, think about that. That's what they told people. Dr. Graffi got up and he put up this map with red dots all over the place and said, this is what your county's going to look like. Well, that would be great, in my opinion, because you got 20,000 walls in Broome County and you got all this ad valorem tax coming in. Not only are we not going to have to pay taxes anymore, but we can buy Pennsylvania.
You can't afford Pennsylvania right now. Well, I just want to be certain that wasn't misconstrued what I said. I'm right in the heart of the Chesapeake and Cabot work down there, and I can speak for Chesapeake on their roads. We have never had anywhere near the caliber road. They come in and grind them up, probably 2.5 foot deep, mixed dry concrete with them, and when that's rolled and tamped and so forth, they put a lot of pavement on them. They are just stronger, better roads than it's ever been. Because most of them were dirt roads that started putting gravel and tar on them and called it a hard road. Tremendous job.
One other thing I'll say about the question as to whether or not the contribution of ad valorem taxes to the local town and county highway departments is going to resolve the gas companies of mediating the road problem. That's going to be up to us. We're going to have to go to our local towns and make sure that they put in responsible road use agreements and so forth. And that's one of the problems with what the Andis are doing right now is that they're actually deflecting the town from doing what they should be doing to get prepared. So really that's where we have to direct this is so that the road use agreements are in place and the gas companies are still held responsible for their damage and it doesn't come out of the ad valorem.
19 towns in this county already have.
Yep. And the county itself.
That's good. That's good. And we have to keep that momentum going like that. That's all.
Where my question came from on that is down home, our great governor, I don't know if I need this, our currently elected Republican governor has had many contributions from gas and oil to get elected, and it's controversial. He didn't, he was against the severance tax. Well, there's some kind of tax right now that's enacted, I don't know the exact title of it, but each county commissioners need to say yes or no to it. And our local county just said yes this week. I have read, but I have not read the bill, but states that part of that got stuffed into it was that the road repairs and damage will revert back to, in Pennsylvania, to our local counties that sign up for this money. And you folks up here have such a golden opportunity to do it and have it done right by learning from what we learned through the School of Hard Knocks south of the border. That's just what I wanted to say, because that's a great thing what I'm hearing here right now. Thank you.
And this is Chuck Lake, ladies and gentlemen. This is our next speaker. He is the president of the Elk Lake School Board in Pennsylvania.
You going on or you taking a break?
I think we're,
Whatever you want.
we'll go on. That's all.
Thank you. And I don't like these things. I got a voice usually carries at a school board meeting.